Hi folks, RAYDVD here. Welcome to the Moview Reviewers 100 channel again. This week it is 80s week, and I'm sure I'm saying for a lot of the reviewers this week, this was their era. You know, this was the time that they were growing up. I think a lot of us were teenagers then, and this was the one that we remember the most of our film from our childhoods. And loads of films to pick. You know, Big Al picked E.T. classic 80s song. You know, it was the highest grossing film of the time. And Spielberg, of course, you know, he was making all these magic films, you know, in the 80s. This was his era as well. And the film I'm going to speak about, it was a difficult choice, but I thought I would go with Blade Runner. I haven't actually did any reviews about Blade Runner before, and stars one of my favourite actors and one of my favourite directors, so let's talk about Blade Runner. Directed by Ridley Scott. He says this is one of his most complete films to date, one of his most personal, and at the time he was a fledgling director. He had a big hit with Alien, and I think this was maybe his second film. And Harrison Ford, he was the star of this film, plays Rick Deckard, and he was on the back of he had did Empire Strikes Back in 1980. He had did Raiders Lost Ark in 1981, and then he was on to Blade Runner in 82. A lot of the time, like I says, it wasn't a success. No, it was a critical failure, and the audience, it couldn't find its audience at the time. You know, like Star Wars and Empire and all these, they're all fast-paced science fiction, no wham bam, you know, the lightning speed, great editing and stuff. But this was a more sort of brooding, took its time to develop the characters, you know, you find out about the characters, and it was more like a film noir set in space. And I think that's why at the time it was maybe just it was ahead of its time, in my opinion. But then throughout the years, it managed to find an audience on video, and then it's just become more and more of a classic, and people recognise it that it is a masterpiece of the 80s. Ridley Scott and Harrison Ford, they didn't get on in this film. There was a lot of sort of friction and stuff, and the producers and that as well. There was a lot of it wasn't a smooth running production. Too many people were trying to put their tuppence worth into it, and there was times when you think that the film wasn't going to get made, and then it was things were getting taken out and put back in and stuff. The tacked on ending from The Shining, that's a well known thing that happened to it as well. No, people didn't like that. They didn't like the voiceover that Harrison Ford had to do. He didn't like it. He hated it. He says this was his worst film. And throughout the years, Ridley Scott, it was because of the invention of DVD and Blu-ray, he could go back and make his director's cut. Then he would make his final cut, and you know, he could go back, revisit it, and put the film the way that he wanted it. Some say it's a good thing, some say it's a bad thing. No, Ridley Scott, I think he usually does a good job on these. George Lucas, you know, enough said, he shouldn't have touched any of the original Star Wars films. He should have just left them as it was. But that's another discussion we might have sometime. But Blade Runner, you know, for me personally, this was a fantastic film. I remember, you know, a couple of years earlier, Empire Strikes Back, you know, it was like the classic Star Wars film, you know. And then I've seen this at the cinema, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I was a big 40s noir fan, you know, and like your Robert Mitchums and your Humphrey Bogarts. And at the time, Harrison Ford, you know, in interviews and that, Spielberg and Lucas were saying he would have been like in the 40s and the 50s. He would have been like Humphrey Bogart, Clark Gable, and all these guys. You know, he was like a mega star. He was. And yeah, I thought it was good. The cast is fantastic in it. If I just look through the cast here, we've got Harrison Ford in it, and then we've got Rutger Hauer. Rutger Hauer is the king of the B movies in the 80s, and this was his sort of crowning glory. You know, this was the film that made him shine and showed you that he was a fantastic star, and he should have been in a lot bigger films, bigger budget films. He plays the head replicant. and he plays him not just like a bad guy, he plays him as a sort of misunderstood guy, almost like a childlike in his outlook and things. You know, at the end you see him, you know, and when he meets Tyrell, his maker, he's just like you know, it's the father and son classic sort of meeting, you know. And his speech at the end of this is just, it's when they're doing it in the folklore and legend, you know, it's just absolutely amazing. You know, it's been quoted in loads of forms, and you've probably seen it in like say best of clips and stuff. And he's amazing in this. Other characters in it, you've got Sean Young, who was her first film. She was in the documentary that's on the Blu-ray of this. She says that she was intimidated by Harrison Ford, and she didn't know how to react to him stuff, because this was her first film and stuff. And then you would have you had Edward James Olmos in it, who would play the Captain Admiral Adama in the later Battlestar Galactica films, and other sort of characters in it as well. You know, there was the guy William Sanderson, who would play the sheriff in True Blood, and he's been in loads of stuff. I think he was in I'm sure he was in Twin Peaks as well at some point. And the technology wise of the film, it was I can't remember the guy's name who designed it all, but he was a genius, you know. And then that combined with the talents of Ridley Scott to light a scene, and to bring his sort of visionary mind to it, made Blade Runner look absolutely amazing. You know, it had all neon lights and the technology, you know, the flying cars, the grunged up technology, you know, it wasn't all new tech. That combined with like the old world, like Chinatown and stuff, all sort of a big sort of mishmash of different cultures and stuff, and it would go on to be to make the Blade Runner world really visceral and a realistic sort of a world. The the film score, Vangelis, you know, he was the big sort of composer of his day, and everybody was wanting Vangelis for his films. And this is a beautiful, beautiful film score. Really, really adds to the music and stuff. The voiceover, the much maligned voiceover, I don't mind that. I can listen to it because, like I say, I like the Humphrey Bogarts and that. I know their sort of films, and they had voiceovers and stuff. And it changes the film. You know, it gives it when you hear it with and without the voiceover, it makes the films really pretty different. Other things in it as well that I was wanting to bring up is there's the big question mark is Deckard a replicant as well, and there's clues that are put into the film. You know, it's to make it a bit ambiguous. It's stuff like all the replicants in it. You'll see they have lights that shine up their lights, the backlight of their eyes, only gives them that sort of android look. If you look in the film closely, you'll see like all the replicants have that in one scene or another, and then there's one scene in particular when you see that Deckard's character has it as well. So is he a replicant? Isn't he a replicant? We'll never know. No, it's up to you to work out and stuff. But really, really good film. So look out for it. Look out for reviews during the week, and thanks for watching.